Good evening, I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for watching as always, it is appreciated. Reform UK seems to be running scared of Restore Britain, and that can only be a good thing for people of the right-minded right of centre, and that's what I want to get into. Since Restore Britain launched just under 2 weeks ago, they're already circling nearly 100,000 members. That trajectory is far, far faster than Reform UK when they actually started releasing the information. It's far, far quicker. Now, they've already forced Reform UK to start to get serious about some of their milquetoast policies, and somebody with a Reform MP, I will say this, she is a marked improvement on anything I've had for 50 years. I'll stand by that and I'll die on that hill. Come at me. I will stand on that. She is much more effective and she is much more responsive. But is it the best we can do as a country? Is it the best that these guys here deserve? Is it the best that we deserve as a country? I think we can do better. I think we can do better.
We can do better than that, I think.
That is the function at the moment of Restore Britain, because they're not standing candidates in elections yet. They're focusing on Great Yarmouth in the local elections this year, and there's probably going to be a national rollout maybe next year or the year after. But in the meantime, it keeps the conversation where it needs to be on the right, and it makes Reform UK think about their priorities, actually maybe winning elections, getting elected, staying on point, staying on topic, and I want to get onto a few issues here. First of all, my MP, Sarah Pochin, has reiterated that now Reform UK is dedicated to banning religious face coverings in public in the UK. This is a symbol of oppression, according to my MP. Well, yes, it is. It is. Now, I had this back and forth with my friend the other day regarding religious coverings. And she made the point of saying, well, what if it's their religion, we should allow it, basically. And I said, well, okay, maybe you've got half a point, but I bounced back and said, if you're bringing children in that religion and you're not actually giving them the freedom of choice that I had, I personally am Christian, and I was brought into the faith as an adult when I made that choice myself. My parents didn't have me christened or baptised, and they said they wanted me to have the decision myself. If you're not offering that choice to a religion that has these practices, let's be clear, nothing in the Quran says you need to do the extremities that some Muslims practice. Nothing says that. It's a choice, and it's a choice made by the families in question. They've also said that they want to do negative migration, not net zero, but negative migration. That's similar to what Restore Britain said when they launched. They want to reverse mass migration. So I want to see what else they're going to do. I want to see how far we can shift that Overton window back to where it needs to be. There's a few things that are getting thrown about as well, people being called ethno-nationalists. Let's be clear, those two words mean the same thing, they have different roots. Nationalist comes from Latin, and ethnicity comes from the Greek word. Alright? There's two words for the same thing, so never be confused or hoodwinked into thinking it's anything. It's not. It's meant as a slur. They're trying to trip people up. They're trying to get people to think, well, I can't be racist. We need to get out of that mindset. This is about self-preservation. So I'm going to get into a few clips that Nigel and Reform UK have actually published this week. This isn't a dig at Reform UK supporters or voters. Me, at the moment, I've not got any local or national elections to worry about for a few years. The majority of people who are voting Reform think they are doing the right thing. They've just seemed to have morphed into none of the above option. Alright? So with that being said, let's get into the first video.
Able to provide a proper democratic antidote to this, then I fear that we will see a rise of a really worrying, dangerous form of extreme right ethno-nationalism. And I think we're beginning, over the last couple of weeks already, to see some specimens of it. Nobody over the last quarter of a century has done more to defeat the genuine, intolerant, abhorrent, extreme far right than me. We did it with the British National Party and we'll do it with whoever else follows.
So there's a couple of points I want to break down there. First of all, he mentions the BNP as a boogeyman. A boogeyman we can all get behind and say they're evil, they're evil. Now, I don't know much about the BNP. I really don't. I drank the Kool-Aid when they were a thing, and I turned around and said, yeah, I'm being told they're racist, they're obviously racist. I do know that they started reporting on the primarily Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs before anybody else. Before anybody else, I do know that. And I do know they were talking about demographic replacements of the indigenous peoples of the United Kingdom and Ireland before we all jumped on the bandwagon. Alright? So when Nigel says he's done more to defeat the genuine far right, what's he actually talking about? Is he talking about people like me that don't want the white British people to become a minority in our own homeland, our own country? What's he actually getting at? He's not being specific enough for me. He's not giving me the detail. This is a critique of Farage. Mask off now. I'm going to critique anyone I want to critique. However, we need substance behind the rhetoric. We need specifics of what he's getting at. Because he's quite happy for the Chagosians to have their native homeland, but he doesn't want British people to have their native homeland. And then you think of another thing he said. He said, well, you're Welsh if you've lived in Wales for 5 years. Well, the Chagosians have been over in Britain since the, mid-1960s? So are they not native British now? You need to critically analyse and think about these things as what I'm getting at. Never take it as read, what you're being said, or what you're being delivered as the truth. Ask for the substance, ask for the policy, ask for the detail.
But it's important we get a grip on this because there is no issue other than legal and illegal immigration that has broken the bond of trust between the voters and those that govern us more than this issue. And I have spoken out consistently on it for now nearly 25 years. But I repeat the point I made at the conference last week. This is no longer a one-man band.
I know you've taken a lot of failed Tories. Lest we forget, Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage were both backers of the Tory party until John Major took us into Maastricht Treaty, I think it was 1992 or 1993. So, they're all Tories. Rupert Lowe's a Tory, I'm a Tory. Everybody is a Tory if you're on the right. We're just splintered off because we're not getting what we vote for.
Not that it ever was with all you lovely people. And the biggest membership of any party in the country. But I will leave the rest of this debate and the solutions we're offering to Zia.
So we'll leave that one there, and we'll get into the second clip now.
Britain averaged about 30,000 people a year. The Labour government decided to open the doors, all in the name of diversity. And the Conservatives, especially under Boris Johnson, with the Boris wave, opened up the doors unconditionally in a way that no longer could the argument be made that immigration was good for the economy. Since Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, it is very clearly bad for the economy, and goodness knows what the long-term cost of the Boris wave is going to be. Some independent experts reckon it could be as high as £200 billion.
So there's a couple of things. He was community noted on this post on X first of all. The community note says that 5 of the 8 Reform UK MPs were Tories when Boris Johnson was in office, when he was in power. So they facilitated the Boris wave, and now they're in Reform UK. Remember that there's more Tories in Reform UK than they've had elected at the ballot box. Then you look at something else. He's mentioning the Boris wave, and Reform UK is quite good at this, and I've noticed this. As I say, pragmatically, Reform votes are here. They're good at saying what the problem is. They're good at bigging up what the problem is, amplifying talking points that me and other people on the right of centre will talk about. Not very good on the solutions, not very good on specifics and the detail of what's actually going to be delivered once they get into power. Now, if you look at the policy paper for mass deportations from Reform UK, I think it's 4 pages long, and half of that is pictures. And then you contrast that to what Restore Britain has put out, which is a policy paper of over 100 pages. It's night and day. Do not be hoodwinked. Now in this video, when he talks about the Boris wave, he's not mentioned anything about deporting them when Reform UK, if Reform UK get in. He's not talking about that at all. Now, Labour have essentially kicked the can down the road, and they've extended the indefinite leave to remain for 10 years. So they wouldn't have to deal with the Boris wave migrants and deal with that political fallout. Whichever party gets in next will have to answer that question. So the answer or the question becomes, who will you be trusting to deport the Boris wave? Will it be Nigel Farage, or will it be Rupert Lowe, or Ben Habib? Will it be somebody else? These are the questions you need to answer and ask and speak to yourself about. So will we continue?
And let's be clear, nobody in Britain has ever voted for a government that promised mass migration into our country.
You're not saying you'll reverse it. You're saying you want negative migration now. You're saying you don't want net zero, which is a one in, one out. That would mean, in theory, 500,000 native British people could leave, and you could bring in 500,000 Pakistanis. And there's nothing to see here because it's net zero. They're talking about negative migration now. They want far more people going out than coming in. But again, they're not actually given the detail on how they're going to achieve that. That's what I want to see. I want to see substance, and I want to see what the policy will be as a floating voter.
Nobody has ever been asked about this issue.
So we'll leave that one there. We'll leave that there. Now, in terms of the Boris wave and what Nigel Farage is going to do if he did get in, I find it's better to look at people's actions than look at the rhetoric. So he could be talking tough on immigration. Okay, talk is cheap. You need to look at the substance behind it. I know for personal experience that they have in my area, they're refusing people to stand as candidates, genuine grassroots Reform UK, people who want genuine change in the country. They're just declining them outright. And they're not actually giving really good reasons. Like, they haven't got criminal records, they have no rap sheet, they're not got any skeletons in the closet in that regard, and they're getting declined. However, they are letting Boris wave migrants stand as councillors in local elections. Now, there's some people who say, well, that's racist, why wouldn't you let them? Because they are the anti-migration party at the moment. Actions speak louder than words, and the actions are the full of bullshit. Then you look at this. Conor Tomlinson put this out about this one particularly. He's a Bangladeshi. He arrived on a student visa. It expires soon. He wants to move back to the Middle East. Plans to reform back in the homeland one day, so he's planning to go back. He's eligible to vote in our elections due to the 1948 British Nationality Act. And Reformers wanting them as a candidate, and then he asked the question, what are we doing? It's a valid question. This is what I mean. This is what Reform have to get serious on, because people are now scrutinising them. They automatically assumed they were going to have a shoe-in for the next election, because the Tories are damaged goods, and Labour are never getting voted in again. Now they're defending the right flank, they are having to concentrate minds, and they're having to get more serious. I'm here for it. I will call out to anyone and any political party that I feel needs it, which is what I'm going to continue to do on this channel. Like and subscribe, do all that great stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.